Hello my friend, and welcome back to the video editing podcast from Unsplice, where you and I have a conversation about how you can become a better video editor so that you can work with your dream client sooner. My name is Shiny, and I founded Unsplice because I realized that the editing world is super biased towards Hollywood, but film editing is actually a small percentage of available editing work out there. So now Unsplice has become the only place that celebrates video editing in all its forms. Whether you love cutting documentaries, music videos, branded content, social content, whatever it is, Unsplice celebrates it and loves it. And we give you the tools you need to improve your skills and your career. So today on the Video Editing Podcast, we have our very first guest, which is super exciting. His name is Josiah Ward. He is an assistant editor at Future Studios. He and I met in 2021 when I was cutting a Snapchat original series. He was the assistant editor on that job. And at the time, Future Studios was called Barcroft Studios. And they were bought by Future Publishing. So now all of the videos that they make reach a huge audience in the US and the UK. So you'll hear about how he got the job, as well as all the things that he's learned on the job over the last 8 months or so. We also talk about university and whether he thought it was worth it and pivotal to him getting the position. We also talk about remote editing across the US and the UK, and really how our industry has changed completely in the last couple of years of the pandemic. It's going to be a good one. It was good fun to record, and I think you're going to like it. He has a very typically British, dry sense of humour, and I hope you get something from it. I'd like to welcome to the Video Editing Podcast, Josiah Ward. Welcome.
Hello.
Josiah, you're actually the first guest I'm interviewing, so...
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Blimey.
If this goes terribly wrong...
it's my fault.
Forgive me.
Fault.
Yeah, I'll just blame it all on Josiah. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, for everyone listening, Josiah Ward is an assistant editor at Future Studios. How long have you been doing that, Josiah?
Only since about... April, May 2021, so about 8 months. And like in that time I've learned. So I feel like I've leapt up ridiculously in my knowledge of post-production.
Amazing.
Just in that time.
Yeah. Just a little introduction really to Future Studios for those who don't know it or haven't heard of it. They are, and I'm quoting from the website here, the Future website, yeah. Future Publishing apparently is they come across 1 in 3 adults in the UK and the USA, so they've got pretty far reach. And
yeah. I mean, I didn't realise until I started working for them who they were, but then you see that they own pretty much like Marie Claire and all of those kind of YouTube videos interviewing celebrities and stuff. It's just like everything that you don't realise is from them, basically.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? Tell us a bit about what sort of things you've been working on as an assistant editor.
Well, I guess the main show I've been working on recently is something called Truly, which is sort of, I think the best way to describe it, it's kind of those kind of magazines like like Heat magazine, or those kind of magazines that are pitched typically at middle-aged women. Those kind of magazines where it's the shocking front page stories. You won't believe it. It's the woman with 5 arms. It's the person who wants to form a throuple.
She's got a secret that we all need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, for only 62p you can find out. But it's basically like it's the video documentary version of those of those stories.
Okay. Because we met when we were working together on a project for Snapchat.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that. So when I first joined, I was just freelance on like a short-term contract for that show. And then since about October, I've gone permanent there, which is sort of their in-house stuff. Is that truly kind of thing? But they also do. Yeah, they also make shows for Snapchat and for Facebook and for Channel 4 and stuff like that. So that Snapchat show, that was really cool. That was a documentary called As I Am about Asian hate crime. But it was each episode focused on a different person of Asian heritage over in America, and it was sort of telling their story. And I was a bit naive going into it in that I didn't know Snapchat made an original content before that point.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't either.
Yeah.
And this is the first sort of it's not quite long form, it's not quite short form, but it's like that short long form where it's that long form narrative style of editing, but condensed down to like a few minutes. But that was the first one I did in 9:6 format.
Oh yeah.
Many things I've done in 16:9 that have been then reformatted to 9:16, but that was actually the first thing I did that was strictly 9:16 format.
What were the main challenges with that?
Just framing, pretty much.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. That was framing, being able to, because you can't really work so well with the rule of thirds, because like 1/3 of the screen and another third of the screen is so close together, like it doesn't really make much difference, and you end up having to center frame so much stuff. That was probably the biggest thing, and just the layout on in Premiere, like the actual screen layout.
Yeah. Oh right. Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't say there was a huge difference between that and cutting 16:9.
No, yeah, I was really sort of pleasantly surprised in a good way at sort of not to sound bad, but how high quality it all was. It was so and I mean they shot it on like Alex as well. But
it was nicely shot. It was well directed. I think they actually turned out really well.
Yeah, they were really, really cool. And actually since then they have done another Snap original series, which I sort of helped the new edit assistant out, or sort of like showed her the ropes a little bit.
Amazing.
And that was really cool as well. That was called Reunited. That was just getting long lost families together.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it's really, really cool and interesting. It's the kind of stuff that like, if you were to see it on TV, you wouldn't blink, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it just happens to be on Snapchat.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty high quality content. I'll put a link in the show notes for the listeners who are interested and have a Snapchat account.
Yes,
which I don't.
Which I don't either. So I think I had it when I was like 20, and that was quite a while ago now.
So what is it? What is it that you do on a day-to-day? You said you were teaching a new edit assist exactly what they need to do in this project. So what is your day-to-day looking like?
Well, the main day-to-day is just sort of the go-between between PDs and editors. Now PDs, my role is
standing for producer directors.
Producer directors, yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. No. Most people know, but not everybody.
Well, it's like when I first met you, I didn't know any kind of lingo or any kind of like any of the words. But now I've learnt them, I'm going to fall into the trap of saying them without thinking that people might not know them.
It's an easy trap to fall into.
Yeah. But yeah, my role is a little bit different now than when on the show that I worked on with you, because it was just me, and it was you and another editor, and it was kind of and then one main edit producer, and it's just kind of a small team. Now part of the internal team, I think there are 20 in-house editors, and there are 4 of us doing edit assisting for them. Okay. So it's kind of a constant. And it's like a really well-oiled machine at this point. So it's just a constant churning of, there are endless show recordings and endless ingesting. So that's the main thing. We'll have a meeting at the start of the day, see what's come in from UK or America, get it ingested, and basically just get all the clips and material prepped for the editor as soon as possible.
Okay. So that would be things like transcoding it into the correct format. You say you work with the US and the UK, and you're receiving assets from both. Are there any issues there working between the two countries?
Well, in America, the time difference is obviously a bit of a mad one, and it can happen a lot where, it's a big team, but they're also sort of skeleton team at its core. So there's still sort of a lot of, there's about, for all the shoots that goes on, there are maybe about 4 or 5 PDs that are sort of kept on retainer, but that means they're doing like 3 or 4 big shoots a week. And so they're basically having to send stuff over, hope it's gone perfectly first time so they can then move on to the next thing. But of course, it's like all they have to do is like go to sleep or go away from their computer for a few minutes, and internet's gone down, things have gone wrong on upload and whatnot. And then because the time difference, it's maybe like 9 or 10 hours later, we're saying we've just downloaded it. Also, sorry, by the way, all these clips are corrupt. Can you please resend? So it can sort of cause then a bit of a domino effect. Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest challenges, I think. But
so is this something that you think is a symptom of working remotely, or would this happen regardless because you're dealing with clients in the US anyway?
I think that would happen regardless. The main challenge with working remotely is that if you haven't got the internet required for what is like, because you're going to need like the best internet there is to basically, but to be you're probably downloading on average about 100 and 150 gig worth of rushes at a time. Mm-hmm. And I'd probably never downloaded more than about 2 gig before I got a job as an edit assistant on my like home computer. Right. And that's all got to be done like as soon as possible, within about an hour or 2, ideally. So that could be a bit of an issue. So we have computers at the office that we access remotely, but there can be issues with that because you have to do some work on your remote machine, some work on your local machine. So it can be a bit of a faff. Sometimes you're basically doing the same job twice because you've got to do it locally and do it remotely. Okay. So that can be a bit of a faff. I managed to get away with that when I worked on the show that you worked on, actually. But it was all the jobs after that have been a bit different.
You mentioned earlier that when you first started, when we first met, you've grown a huge amount and you know a lot more now than you did then. Were you taught on the job? Were you given training? How have you learned this extra knowledge?
Well, I think one of the things with the whole skeleton company not many people about is that there isn't much time to actually sit down and train someone. I think there was for the first week or so of having the job, I just wonder why the hell have I been hired? I don't understand. It's like I've done a bit of editing before, but mainly for myself. I don't really know what's going on. And the head of post-production, who's a stupidly busy man, I'm not sure how he's able to do anything really, because he's just working across about 10 million shows at once. But he helped me as much as possible, but a lot of it was kind of, I just had to sort of get on with it, and he was open to me asking as many questions I needed to ask. So it was just basically just learning on the job, doing it, like just getting on with it, asking as many questions I needed to, and then gradually over time you ask less questions and
learning by doing.
Yeah, which I prefer anyway. I've always preferred it that way. I think when I went to uni, by the third year, the kind of course I did, we had about 1 lecture a week, and everyone was moaning about that because they say you pay money to go and to get lectures and seminars, but I just thought it was brilliant because that's like 4 days a week that I can just make my own schedule.
That's
and
fair.
Learn like that.
Yeah. Would you say what did you study at university?
I did script writing for film and TV.
Okay. So there's a kind of a very loose connection to where you are. Working at Future Studios.
Yes.
Would you say it was worth it? Like if someone is making the decision right now to choose between university or going freelance or employment, would you say that university is a good idea?
I'd say it's always worth it. Like the cliche is you definitely don't have to, which is true. you really don't have to. Like I could have got the job I've got now without going to uni, you could say. But the experience for, I mean, outside of work, all of my like most of my close friends that I have now are all met at uni, and they're all looking to go into similar things. And as I say, all the things I do all the writing, editing I do in my spare time is making stuff with these people. I mean, it's a great opportunity to have loads of free time, basically, in the best possible way. Where it's like you don't necessarily realise it.
Mean.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily realise it when you're there. Like it's, like the only time I really did editing was at university, because I loved writing and still do love writing and still write now and make films. But I taught myself editing because I wanted to get a film made, and I just thought it'd be easier if I learned to edit, because then I could just do it. And
which is, to be fair, is pretty true.
yeah, I gather that's the case with a lot of people.
It's a useful skill to have, to be honest, because editing at the end of the day is about storytelling, which is as a script writer and as a filmmaker is an incredible asset.
Yeah, definitely. Because then, and especially when when I'm writing things now that I've already got a mind of, like my budget now, which is like I know how to edit to a zero budget. No, writing to edit to a zero budget, but it's also writing knowing how I can achieve it in the edit later on, as opposed to just having an idea for it and not knowing what to do. So it's very useful. But yeah, it's just a case of like, I didn't have access to all the editing software and stuff at home, and I probably wouldn't have done. But going to uni where the Adobe Cloud was just on all the computers, it's just so for that kind of thing, I think it's very useful. But you don't have to go.
I do understand exactly what you're saying about your peers as well, because that's something that I tell a lot of people when networking is to sort of network across, not up. And I remember when I was fresh out of uni, I thought I had to network with the execs and the producers and everyone way above my level in order to get like a little boost up. But the reality is you want to network sideways with people who are at the same level as you, or perhaps the very next step that you want to be in. Because definitely. Those people around you, you'll all move up together, and you can push each other as well, and all move up faster together.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's very, very true.
What was how would you describe your knowledge before you took this job?
Well, it's sort of like, I mean, I even said in my interview for that job, like I could do things on Premiere if I had it, on editing software if I had it in front of me. But I couldn't explain. I didn't even know what to call the project panel or what to call all the little buttons. I just I struggle to retain information like just with like words and stuff. It's all just kind of like through doing. And I basically just had to hope the head of post interviewing me believed me when I said that, and I wasn't just I do know it. I just can't tell you.
So where did you find the job listing?
It was on a site called Talent Manager. Which, because I think it was, I was at that point where, I'd had a couple of post-runner jobs, or a few post-runner jobs, which, it's just like any other runner job, really. And it was that point where, I think we were just coming out of the second lockdown, or during the second lockdown. I was very lucky during the lockdowns that I was working at a pub at the time, so I was able to be furloughed from there, which was great because I had lots of time to then do my own thing and build up my portfolio, but I also I could also stay in London, which was great. But it was just applying for jobs all the time. It was and it was one of those that I completely forgot about I applied for until they came back, because it's sort of like getting to the habit of applying and forgetting and
I know what you mean. And then someone comes back and we got your application for this, and you're like, sorry, can you remind me what the job was for? Which company? And
yes, exactly. Yeah,
I think we've all been
there. And then I actually didn't get the job initially that I interviewed for, but they kept my CV, and I thought it was one of those things that, you know, they just say to make you feel better. Oh, by the way, we'll keep your CV. But then they did get back to me in about
that's
2-3 weeks. So that was cool. And then that would have been April, May.
Okay,
that was cool.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So have you started now to edit some things, or are you still strictly on assistant editor duties?
A little bit of editing. So the on the internal productions, because they go across all social medias, so Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, but they've recently started a TikTok channel at the beginning of last year, I think, and as edit assistants you get to do a bit of reversioning of episodes for TikTok. So there'll be a weekly meeting where sort of producers all get together and decide which episodes they'd want to put on TikTok this week, and then we'll divvy them up, and we'll normally do about 1 or 2 a week. It's the offline side of editing is what I enjoy the most, I think. But I mean, I'm a bit jealous of you, where it's like, to be a freelance editor basically means that you can, you know, as long as you've got decent internet set up somewhere, you can live anywhere you want and sort of build your own life around that, which would be an ideal way to go about things. So
yeah, absolutely. It was one of the great things that came out of the pandemic, because literally before the pandemic started, I had in my head that I wanted to only work remotely. All of my jobs up until that point were in offices dotted all over London, and so each week I'd be in a different office, and I wanted to build the remote life. And so it was pretty much so that me and my girlfriend at the time could go wherever we wanted to and live wherever we wanted to and be comfortable. And then the pandemic happened, and working from home became a requirement, and it shifted everything forward by minimum 5 years. I would say probably about 10 years. I would not... Mostly not from a technology perspective, but from a mindset perspective, because the people who are doing the bookings, the people who are, you know, the ones in charge making calls, they're all boomers essentially, and so they have this mindset of everything should be in the office, and it's really difficult to shift that mindset. So when it was forced upon them, and they've now had 2 years of working remotely, and after a year they realized, oh, this can actually happen. You know, all of the technology was worked out, and we had Frame.io really came in leaps and bounds, and everything got rocketed forward in that first year. And then after that year, we've had another year for everyone to just normalize it in terms of being able to work remotely as a video editor. It's brought the industry forward by 10 years, and I think certainly for people in your position, it's a viable career. When I was starting out, there was no way it was possible. Laptops weren't even powerful enough to handle video editing. So and now I literally just have a laptop and nothing else. I just edit on a laptop. It's it's great.
Amazing.
It's absolutely nuts.
I think there are people that talk about sort of a new normal or just going back to normal or whatever, but I'd like that. Just because it happened for a while doesn't mean it has to be not the normal or something. You know?
Exactly. I think it's evolutionary. You know, there is a new normal, and it will never be the old normal, but it won't be the same new normal that we were talking about, you know, in 2020.
Exactly. It's like, and it's like almost 2 years now of being remotely. And during that time, I know I've only been with this company for a portion of that time, but during that time is when they've come on probably their biggest leaps and bounds. And that's despite working remotely, not necessarily because of working remotely, but despite working remotely, which just proves that.
Absolutely. You know, because content itself is going through an absolute surge across all platforms at the moment. Video editors and video editing is in such high demand. You've got obviously all the social channels are pushing so much harder because people are using their phones and they're chilling out and using social media more than ever. You've also got all the streaming platforms who the number of platforms are growing massively, and the amount of content that they're trying to create is growing massively. And with the 2020, everything went on standstill for 6 months. So there's this backlog, and it's nuts at the moment, just how much stuff is being made. And most of it remotely as well. So it's an incredible time to be a video editor.
Yes. So yeah, it's like surreal at times. I think one of the shows that Barcroft / Future produce something called Ultimate Rides, which is this 45-minute TV hour long thing, and it's incredible how they've managed to. Every episode goes through about 5 or 6 editors all over the world.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I've also noticed that turnaround times have got a lot shorter as a result. That's definitely something over the last 10 years I've noticed that everything's getting the turnaround. I cut over at the end of last summer, I cut a TV hour in about 6 weeks, which was normally, well, it would have been double that several years ago.
So why is that, do you think?
Just because of the amount of stuff that they're trying to create.
Right.
And they're trying to create the same amount of stuff on the same budget. So the way they do that, they try to do that is by doing everything quicker. And I'll tell you what, as an editor, it is like really draining. You burn out very quickly. And after I finished that job, I had to take, I planned to take 2 weeks off. I ended up taking 4 weeks off because my brain needed to recover. It was really taxing. So it doesn't really work in our favor. So if people want to catch, you have your own podcast and your own.
Yes.
And you have your own YouTube channel. If people want to catch you, where can they find you?
Well, this is the first time I've ever been a guest on a podcast. So if this is your
very
first interview, so, I'm usually and when I'm hosting, I can just talk. I feel like I can just talk more nonsense because it's just
nonsense is welcome.
It's called the Alternative Football Commentary Podcast, which is I watch football with people that don't really like or care about football and try and convince them that it's all right, okay. But I'm being a football commentator, so if I speak nonsense, it's a satire. So
amazing.
That's all they do, football commentators. But yes, I also I've got a YouTube channel that's just creatively my name, Josiah Ward. Ignore the serial killer from the 90s. There's
now I'm curious. I'm sure everyone else.
Well, I'm now ahead of him on Google. That was before. I mean, talking about career goals and going in the future, my initial short-term one was just get above the serial killer from the 90s to be first on Google, and now I am ahead of him, so that's good. But yeah, I
have you
do
put
various.
That on your CV? I think that's quite the accolade.
It's like the only thing. It's just one A4 piece of paper in the middle. Not Josiah Park Ward III. But no, yes, I do various sketches and shorts and web series and stuff like that, and it's semi-infrequent posting, but that's mainly because at the moment I'm working on a stupidly over the top, very ambitious 30-minute comedy special with lots of new sketches and lots of cool things that I'm very happy with. But
great, I can't wait to hear and see more from that project. Thank you so much, Josiah, for coming on and telling us about your life as an AE.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. If you have found this useful at all, I would really, really appreciate if you left a 5-star review, because it helps other video editors in the same position as you to find the podcast so that they can become a better video editor as well. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to speaking with you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.